Okay, today we're making the most moist, bright, and zesty cranberry cake. The cake itself is so soft and buttery and has just the right amount of tart cranberries and fresh orange juice to give it that perfect tangy yet sweet flavor. It is honestly so good. So to start off, you want to preheat your oven to 180°C or 350°F conventional and grease a 9 by 13 inch baking pan. Today I'm using my homemade cake release to grease my pan, and then you also want to line the pan long ways with some parchment paper. This is going to make it so much easier to take the cake out once it's ready. Set your pan aside for now, and next we're going to sift together our dry ingredients. So I've got 300 grams or 2.5 cups of plain all-purpose flour, 30 grams or a quarter cup of cornstarch, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And then using a whisk, give that a good mix until it's well combined and set it aside for now. Next, in a large bowl, you want to add in 170 grams or 3/4 cup of room temperature unsalted butter, 105 grams or half a cup of unflavoured vegetable oil, I use canola oil, 250 grams or 1 1/4 cups of white granulated sugar, and 2.5 teaspoons of orange zest. Remember to only grate the top orange part of the orange and not the white bitter pith underneath. And then using a hand or stand mixer on a medium speed, you want to cream that for 2 minutes until it's light and fluffy. Next, you want to add in 3 large room temperature eggs one at a time while mixing on a low speed, making sure that each egg is mixed in well before adding in the next. Once that's done, you want to add in 120 grams or half a cup of room temperature whole milk, 115 grams or half a cup of freshly squeezed orange juice, and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, and then mix that in on a low speed until well combined. Now you just want to get any of the batter off of your attachments because the rest of the mixing we're going to be doing by hand. So next you want to add the pre-sifted dry ingredients from earlier to the wet ingredients, and using a spatula gently fold until just combined. You don't want to overmix, so just mix until you can't see any more streaks of unmixed flour. Now to finish off the batter, you want to coat 215 grams or 2 cups of fresh or frozen cranberries in 1.5 tablespoons of plain all-purpose flour. If you're using frozen cranberries, then don't let them thaw, and this is just going to prevent the cranberries from sinking to the bottom of the cake. And then once they're coated, add them to the batter, discarding any excess flour, and then again using a spatula, gently fold until just combined. You don't want to overmix. So that is our batter all done, and now you just want to pour the batter into our prepared cake pan and spread it out as evenly as you can. Now the last step is to sprinkle 1.5 tablespoons of white granulated sugar over the top of the batter, and this is just going to give the cake this kind of thin, flaky, caramelized crust on top. So once that's done, this cake is ready to go into our preheated oven for 28 to 30 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean or with a few moist crumbs on it. So once the cake is done, you want to let it cool in the pan for about 20 minutes just to allow the cake to firm up a bit before running a thin knife along the edges of the pan that don't have any parchment paper, and then turning the cake out onto a wire rack to cool. Now the way that I like to do this is just place the wire rack on top of the cake tin and flip it over, and it should drop right onto the wire rack. This cake is very moist, so just be careful when handling it as you don't want it to break. Now all that's left to do is just allow the cake to cool to room temperature, and then it is ready to slice and serve. This cranberry cake is honestly so moist, the crumb is incredibly tender, and it's got the most bright zesty flavor from the cranberries and fresh orange juice. It is honestly so good. So that is it for today, guys. If you do decide to give this recipe a go, then please do leave a review on our blog. It really helps our content out here at Cakes by MK, and I'll see you in the next video.